The Back to the Future franchise was an absolute smash hit, cementing itself as one of the most iconic movie trilogies of all time. The adventures of Marty McFly and Doc Brown captured audiences' imaginations with their thrilling time travel escapades, clever humor, and unforgettable characters. But after the release of Back to the Future Part 3, the story came to a definitive halt. Despite countless fans clamoring for a fourth installment, Back to the Future 4 never became a reality, and likely never will. Let's dive into why that's the case. Interestingly, the original Back to the Future wasn't even intended to be part of a series. It was supposed to be a standalone film with a cleverly comedic cliffhanger ending. Remember when Doc Brown suddenly shows up in the DeLorean, now upgraded with futuristic modifications, and frantically tells Marty and Jennifer,
"It's your kids, Marty. Something has got to be done about your kids."
That wasn't actually setting up a sequel. It was meant to be a fun, imaginative closing note. However, when the movie became a box office sensation, grossing a whopping $212 million domestically, Universal Pictures saw an opportunity for more. The success prompted creators Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale to expand the story, and thus Back to the Future Part 2 and Part 3 were born. While these sequels didn't quite match the financial success of the first film, they still solidified the franchise's place in pop culture history. Despite the franchise's massive success and enduring popularity, a fourth movie never materialized. And it's not because Universal wasn't interested, far from it. According to Robert Zemeckis, the studio has consistently approached him and Bob Gale over the years, hoping to revive the series. But the creators have remained steadfast in their decision to leave the trilogy as it is. Zemeckis told Variety that Universal periodically asks if there's any way to continue the story. However, he and Gale have always been clear. They're simply not interested. As far as they're concerned, the story of Marty McFly and Doc Brown was fully told with the third movie. They wrapped up the characters' arcs, resolved the central conflicts, and gave audiences a satisfying conclusion. Zemeckis has even expressed openness to adapting the Back to the Future Broadway musical for the screen, but Universal has shown no interest in that idea. They're more focused on the possibility of a direct sequel, something Zemeckis and Gale firmly oppose. One of the main reasons Zemeckis and Gale have resisted making Back to the Future 4 is because they believe the story had a satisfying ending. At the conclusion of Part 3, Marty learns an important lesson about not letting pride dictate his decisions, and Doc finds happiness with Clara as they set off on new adventures in their time-traveling train. The characters' journeys felt complete, and the creators saw no need to revisit them. Zemeckis and Gale view the trilogy as a complete piece of art, and they're protective of its legacy. As Zemeckis once said, "If it isn't broke, it shouldn't be fixed." And he's right. The Back to the Future franchise has stood the test of time, remaining beloved by generations of fans. Why risk tarnishing that legacy with a potentially unnecessary sequel? Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale have made their stance loud and clear. It's not happening. One of the main reasons Universal Studios hasn't moved forward with another installment is simple. They don't own the rights to the franchise. That power rests entirely with the creators, Zemeckis and Gale, and they've built an unshakable wall around their beloved trilogy. Bob Gale once joked at the Saturn Awards, "People always say, 'When are you guys going to do Back to the Future 4?' And we say, 'Fuck you.'" That blunt remark was met with laughter from the audience, and Gale doubled down saying, "And you can quote me on this." This sums up their fierce loyalty to the franchise and their unwillingness to let anyone tamper with it. It's not just sequels they refuse, remakes are completely off the table too. Zemeckis has made it abundantly clear that such a project would only happen over his dead body. He's aware that Universal would likely attempt to push forward with a reboot or remake if he and Gale were no longer alive. But even then, the creators have taken steps to protect the franchise. The rights will pass on to their estates, making it legally complex for the studio to move forward without hurdles. That can't happen until both Bob and I are dead. And then I'm sure they'll do it unless there's a way our estates can stop it, Zemeckis said candidly. Let's be real. If Back to the Future 4 ever happened, it would make a ton of money. The original trilogy has a massive fan base, and with all the time that's passed since 1985, a new movie could play with some really cool time travel concepts. This is precisely why Universal is so eager to continue. There's little doubt that a new project has the potential to bring in some big bucks. Still, there are far more and far less money-hungry reasons that Back to the Future 4 or any other Back to the Future remakes shouldn't happen now or in the future. We live in an era of endless reboots and sequels. Some of them work, but a lot of them, they crash and burn. And when a sequel flops, it doesn't just fail on its own, it drags the entire franchise down with it. Think about it. Back to the Future is one of those rare franchises that ended on a perfect note. The first movie was a masterpiece, and while the sequels weren't quite as beloved, they still hold up really well. Fans still rewatch them, quote them, and obsess over them decades later. Why mess with that? The first Back to the Future movie was a booming success, but its sequels appealed a little less to audiences with each installment. Still, the franchise survived, and these movies have aged beautifully. Zemeckis and Gale seem to understand that this is something that just shouldn't be messed with. So, as much as people might want to see a new Back to the Future, it's not happening. And honestly, that's probably for the best. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to First Curiosity, and let us know in the comments. Would you want to see a Back to the Future 4, or do you think they should leave it alone?